When I build my dashboards and I'm about to make the design, I like to use previous designs because it's faster and maybe I just change it a little bit. But I also like to experiment and trying something totally new. Maybe I have something in my mind and I'm gonna do that, but sometimes I just totally blank and then maybe I check some websites. Or lately I really like to play around with Midjourney and get inspiration from there. I have a dashboard here which I built more than a year ago and I want to change the design of it. So I selected a couple of pictures from Midjourney and tried to change the design based on them. Let's see what we can get out of it. The dashboard has 3 pages, a home page, the sales page, and the ratings page. The design is not very terrible, but it's a bit confusing. For example, here the sales color is the same like the rating color. Also here, units sold is the same color, and it's very different visuals. There is no hierarchy. They are just kind of thrown onto the canvas. Also here ratings. I wouldn't say it sucks, but it could be better. Here are the pictures from Midjourney. I really like darker designs with specific color schemes. Initially I wanted to try this one with this red and teal, but the colors were not enough. So I have ratings, I have priors, and I have year-to-date values. I have more colors than just 2. So I took these and I took some other colors from this. I'm going to start with the home page. I copied the screenshot into Figma. I insert it into a frame 16 by 9 and I want to start with the background. I really like this reddish and bluish background, like there is some spotlight here and a red light source coming from the bottom right corner. I already selected the colors accordingly and I'm just going to make a basic blue. I fill a rectangle with this color. And I add already a red to it. I sample this color also from here. Then I add the spotlight, which is an ellipse. I pick the color from the background, make it a bit lighter. Change the gradient to angular. Make it more transparent. And add the layer blur of 500. Going back to the Midjourney pictures, as you can see, the boxes usually have the same color or very similar color like the background. So we are going to do the same. First showing the screenshot, I create a rectangle, change the corners to 20. Then I sample the color from the background. I add a red inner shadow, which is the reflection of the red light source. And I add another inner shadow on the other side, which is blue, and this is the reflection of the spotlight. Going back to the AI visuals, these frames usually have some drop shadows, so we will add it to it as well. Sampling the background color and make it a bit darker. I turn the fill down to 10% opacity and it blends in nicely into the background. I'm gonna add some more reflection. I add the linear reflection with the basic dark red color, make it 10% opaque, and I add the radial reflection which reflects the spotlight. I duplicate the rectangle and I switch the linear filter to 20 and the blue radial filter to 10% opacity. I change the red inner shadow in a more intense color and I change the blue inner shadow into a darker blue because it's closer to the red source and farther away from the spotlight. Finally, for the deep shadow, I sample the background again and change it to darker. I align the frames in the middle and I make the spotlight larger so it kind of reflects also between the 2 boxes. I'm done with the homepage background, so I export it back into Power BI. Here I replace the background, delete the white shapes, also delete this bottom toolbar, and I align the visuals into the boxes. Then I change the titles, adjust the last refresh date, and I want to change also this title into something more minimalistic. Now let's get to the visuals. I change the text colors into light grays. I add a title to the y-axis. I wanted to align them to the top and this is not possible with the native y-axis titles of the visuals, so I use the shape instead with 270 degrees rotation and just wrote the text there. I want to change the colors as well, so I'm going to import the sampled colors into a theme. Hit apply, And I'm gonna change up the colors, teal for sales and purple for ratings. For the ratings, I create a gradient color going from dark red into purple. I'm just gonna use custom values this time because all the ratings are within this range. These are also colors from these AI visuals. They look similar like this, teal and purple together. We have a navigation button here and I want to make a smooth highlight instead of this flat white. I go back to Figma, create a black canvas, copy one of the windows, delete the secondary fields and put 1% opacity. This is going to be our frame. No effects. I make 2 ellipses and add them to the frame. I add them a blue color and 40% opacity. And I give them 200 layer blur. This is going to be the hover effect and I will create an on press effect as well, which is basically the same but a bit lighter. Going to change the opacity to 80 and layer blur to 300. When I import the images into the bottom field, there is an issue that there is still this white background color there. So whenever I hover over it, it's completely white. So I have to use a measure for it, which makes it transparent. In the measure, I just put a hex code of any color. In this case, this is the white. And this part is how opaque it should be. I put 0, 0, so it's gonna be 0% opaque. I add it as a field value. Change the transparency to 0. And now it looks like this. I copy the button and adjust it for the ratings. Oops, this is going to be ratings. I forgot one thing, which is adding legend to the visuals. This is how it should look like. Year to date and year to go and rating score colored as the visuals. Let's go to the sales page. And look at this. Now it really feels messy. A lot of clutter. Everything is all around the place. Let's see what we can do with it. First, I'm going to rearrange the visuals here so it looks more unified. I want to put more focus on the trends, so I move these 2 visuals to the left. When we open the page, these are the things we see first. I will put the totals to the trends charts respectively. Then I move the bar charts and I move the 2 top 10 tables below of each other. I move the bar charts between the trend lines and the tables. I'm gonna delete these weird boxes and place and align the visuals in regular rectangles. I adjust the top 10 visuals so they fit better. And I want to change these total values as well, having the titles above the numbers and adding the prior value too. Next, I want to change the line chart, remove the legends, the grid lines, also the title, make it smaller, add markers to the current date. I use these measures. This is for the actual year to date. If the maximum month ID is equal to the maximum month ID when the filters are removed and it's still within range, the in range is filtering only the dates up to 2015 June because there are dates already in the date table, but there is no data for them available in the sales table. And if they are the same, which is only in this month, this maximum value is the same. In January it's the January value, in February it's the February value, but this maximum value was always June. And when they are the same value, when they match here in June, then it returns revenue or otherwise it returns blank. And I did the same for prior year to date. And let's turn on the data labels, but just for the current date and name the lines directly. The dashed line is the prior year to go and I want to mark it with a series label. And finally, I want to add a title to it. For the units sold, I would prefer if I can compare it to the line charts in the sales trend. So I'm just going to create this for the units sold as well. Another thing I want to address is with the bar charts. This is category and this is country, but I would like to show each for both visuals. So I want to show category and country for sales and also for units sold. I'm gonna do this with buttons. For now, I'm just going to put here a placeholder. And since I'm at it, I was also thinking about, instead of having top 10 manufacturer and top 10 products, I want to show top 10 manufacturer and bottom 10 manufacturer, and then be able to switch with buttons to top 10 and bottom 10 products. So I will put some buttons here as well. I make a screenshot and let's head back to Figma. I duplicated the home page and I'm just going to insert a screenshot here. Move it to the bottom and I copy and rearrange the rectangles according to the screenshot. There will be a basis for the line charts and the bar charts. I copy it and make a smaller base just for the line chart. I align them properly. And I change the drop shadow into an inner shadow. I turn off the red linear and make it to 5% transparent. I mean opaque. And I change the red inner shadow into a dark drop shadow. For this KPI totals, I copy the above rectangle again, resize it. I change the basic color opacity to 100, turn off the radial fill. I make the blue inner shadow lighter. And taking a peek at the AI generated pictures, sometimes it uses colors which are used for the measures also in frames, like here, here, or here. I'm gonna do the same. Since this is going to be the sales trend, which is teal, I'm going to change this below inner shadow into teal. Sampling from here and changing the values. I turn on the other window from the home page background for the ratings, and I'm going to use it as the basis for the top bottom charts. I adjust the size, disable the radiant fill, and I also make the blue shadow less visible. Now I'm going to create the buttons for the bar charts. Rectangle, change the corners, turn off the screenshot again, change the color to dark blue like the KPI slot, add the stroke, add the drop shadow, and add an inner shadow. It doesn't do much, but still gives it some smoothness at the edges. I add the text to it and I duplicate it, change the corners and change the text. I copy them and change the fill color to lighter blue. Then I copy them one more time and change them to darker blue, almost black. These two buttons are showing when the button is active, and I want to emphasize it a bit more, so I'm gonna put a white line to the bottom. I align it to the bottom with 1.5 pixels width. I pull it into the group here. I go to the rectangle basis. I copy it, Ctrl D. I pull it below the line. I select them both. I click on mask. Then I go back to the rectangle and disable drop shadow and inner shadow. I make sure it has the same size like the bottom. And I make the same thing for the category. Okay, now the buttons are just laying there, which is totally fine, but I feel like experimenting and I want to make a little niche for it. Like it's not sitting directly here, but like on a layer below of this level. I'm gonna copy this layer, Ctrl D, make it smaller. Then I go to the large top layer. I hit enter or go here. And I press P or select pen. And now I can put additional points onto the line, I put 2 points. I go back to selecting them, hitting V, I select these two and holding shift and just going down like this, adjusting it a little bit. Okay, that's what I wanted, but since it has only 10% opacity in the basis color, the shape below it is visible. What we can do is to add the background blur, make it like 100, and voila, it disappeared. I'm gonna adjust this, move it a little bit inside, also moving the buttons. I want to make the whole thing darker. I'm just gonna add back some opacity to the basis color, turn off the radial and adding back even more opacity. Here I add even more background blur, 300. Next I want to build the buttons also for the top bottom charts. As said, I want to switch between product and manufacturer. So here are the top 10 products, bottom 10 products, switching top 10 manufacturer, bottom 10 manufacturer. I create the buttons first. Well, first of all, they look very similar. I'm gonna make them a bit lighter, like this. And now I'm going to copy these and adjust them. The buttons are almost too small. I had to make manufacturer 16 instead of 18, but it's fine. Now I want to make the same niche here, but I want to make it a bit differently. Since the two visuals are going to belong to each other, I want to show it in a way which is going to be this way. I copy it, I change the corners here to 0, the bottom corners, I change here the top corners to 0. I will add here a little bit more opacity, here too. And the shadow of the top shape is reflecting here below of it because of the low opacity. I add the background blur. I also make the bottom one a bit smaller because we need place for the buttons here, like this. So they are divided, but you can still tell that they are connected in some way. Not like they are totally separate, but these are kind of separate. And here I'm going to create the niche in the same way. Now that we have this, I'm gonna copy this whole area for the units sold. In the KPI slots, I changed the inner shadow to orange like the units sold. And I also changed the spotlight here a little bit, so it's not the same like here on the top. I take this large ellipse and copy it to make this area a bit lighter. Now I export everything into Power BI, all the buttons and the background. Here I insert the background. Then I remove all the unnecessary shapes. Then I adjust these top and bottom 10 tables. I start with this. I disable the style and change the font colors and the text in the title. And I do the same for the bottom 10 manufacturer. I add the title. So this is for the sales manufacturer, and I also change the revenue into sales. Here I add the bank button, change the field to transparent with the same transparent color measure. Add the images. The manufacturer is shown, so the manufacturer is active. Let's select it. image with normal, 0% transparency, adjust the size, copy it, and change the images. Default is product default. And on hover is product on hover image fit. I do the same for sales products. And the result is like this. Let's head to the bar charts. First I will remove the title, change the inner padding between the bars, change the y-axis colors, change the data label colors, and the data label background colors. Change the unit sold bars to orange. And also change the differences into red and light blue. Add the titles, then I add the buttons and the bookmarks, hypothetically. Let's head to the line charts. I change the sales trend title, the unit sold title, and I change the axis color in both visuals. And now I see that there is a mistake here. There is a gap here, but there is no gap here. And also no gap here. I have to focus it in Figma. Much better. Let's adjust the total year-to-date colors. It has the same colors like the colors in the visuals, so it makes it easier to identify them. Let's change it to unit sold as well. And looking nice. I head over and change the header title. And I want to replace these navigation buttons with something else. The filter is calling a filter pane where we can select various slicers. And the home is the ratings are navigations to other pages. I'm just gonna delete this altogether. And I can already create some buttons in similar style like the header title. Something like this. And for the filters, I want to create a new filter pane and putting here an icon which is distinguished from the navigation buttons. It's gonna be more obvious. Let's get back to Figma. I go to Iconify and get some icons. I really like these. I'm gonna put this one. This is going to be to edit filters. This is going to be reset filters. And I'm not going to use this one because I need a button to close the filter pane like this. But it seems like if it would cancel the filter. So I'm going to go and find another one. Close. Stoke something rounded. This is going to be fine. I'm going to make them larger. I make their color lighter. I give them a stroke. This way they look thinner. This is going to be the default look and I copy them all. Make the color a bit lighter and also the stroke. The reset button and the close button are done, but I want to make some variation for the edit filter buttons. So this one is the filter default when the filter pane is closed. This is the hover effect, and this is the default when the filter pane is open, and this is the hover effect, so you can close it also by clicking on the filter edit again. I put them aside, I leave the filter default here, and now I create the filter pane. Create a rectangle, I round the corners, 20, change the color to dark blue. add the drop shadow, and add the very blurry inner shadow. In fact, I'm gonna change the color a bit even darker. Since I really like these niche effects here, I'm going to do the same, but in the opposite direction. Adding 2 points and pulling it up. This is where the reset filter and the filter close are going to sit. I can make it a bit larger and adjust the icons properly. Let's check if it's large enough. I create a screenshot and see it in Figma. Yeah, not even close. Okay. And there is one thing to add, which is a divider, because I have 2 sections of filters. I also adjusted the size a little bit, and now we can export everything into Power BI. Once in Power BI, I'm going to add the filter icon first into a button. It has the nice hover effect. Then I add the filter pane. I copy the slicers from the old filter pane. They are a bit big, so I'm just going to adjust their size and add some text. And then I add the buttons. I added the bookmarks to it, so we can just select stuff and it works. Reset it, close it, open it, close it again. With that, the second page is done. One more page to go. I know this video is getting a bit long, but bear with me. Let's go to the ratings page. This is how it looks like. This is the ratings. The colors are already changed here because I changed the theme. First of all, I want to reorganize the visuals. I start with this area. I made it a bit larger, remove the product filter, and I will put a gradient legend to it because all the visuals are going to be based on the same rule. The better the product is, the more purple it is, and as it gets worse, it becomes more red. Then I want to change here year-to-date by manufacturer. I put the products instead because on the homepage we have the 5 products, top 5 products, but we have only 5 products anyway. And you can't find the same values here again, so I thought it just makes sense to repeat it here. Then I want to move the rating map in the middle. I want to move the top products below the top manufacturers, and below the map visual there will be these 2 bar charts. First the map goes to the middle. Then the top products go below the top manufacturers. And finally the 2 bar charts go below the map visual. For the top 10 products doesn't make any sense. It's repetition. We have them already here. I'm gonna use top 10 state instead. And I also want to add the revenue to it to see how much revenue belongs to these scores. And now, instead of having the top 10 manufacturer and the top 10 products below of it, I want to do the same thing what I did on the sales page, having the top and the bottom from the manufacturer and the product. I want to have the same thing here for manufacturer and state. I didn't change the title here. State, not product. So I make some adjustments here. And this is how I want to have it. Here buttons again and switching between manufacturer and state. I'm going to copy this. Let's get back to Figma. I copy the sales page. Insert the screenshot. And let's see what we can get out of it. The top and bottom are going to stay the same and I change the rest. Okay, this is how it looks like adjusted. I turn off the screenshot. It's pretty much the same. The top and bottom chart bases remain the same. These visuals have the same layout, and here this follows the same principle. Like it has a little purple tone and a little bit of red tone because these are the colors we are going to use for the visuals. One thing is missing, the color gradient. And this is how it looks like, going from red to purple. There will be some numbers here, and this is going to be the legend for all the visuals. It's ready for export. Remove all the white shapes. Remove the product filter. I'm going to change the top and bottom tables first. It's the same way like I did on the sales page. Oh, and I forgot to create buttons for it, so I'm just gonna import them from Figma again. They are created the same way like the buttons before, and I insert them here. I'm not gonna do the bookmarks now, but it should work the same way it works on the sales page. Next, I change the color of the map visual to gradient. I change the color for the category and location scores. I adjust the year to date by products. Then let's get to the legend, change the text, and I add some numbers to it. And finally, I adjust the Gauge chart and this card visual here. There is one issue, is that there is no option to change this inner background, but there is a way to do it. If you go to Customize Current Theme, go to Advanced, and then you go to third level elements. I'm going to change it to blue. Apply, and the color has changed. I also want to change these colors here, where there is no value, make it a bit grayer. Same thing, going back to Customize Current Theme, Advanced, this time going to secondary background elements, and I want to make it darker. And now they have changed. The Gauge chart is totally fine like this, but I want to add some design to it. Like if it would be sitting in a niche, so it goes a little bit below the current level and sits on a different level. I make a screenshot. I insert the screenshot in Figma. I create an ellipse, making a bit larger than the shape here. Adjust it a little bit. I create a rectangle. And I'm going to subtract the rectangle from the ellipse. So this is what we get now. I will copy the subtraction, make it smaller, and subtract the two subtractions again. I run the edges. I add an inner shadow. This gives the shadow, this gives the deepness of this niche. And I add a blue drop shadow. This gives the reflection coming from the spotlight. I'm going to export it as an element because I don't want to deal with aligning it in the background. I import it as an image. Well done. Then there is the text here. I'm going to change it. Let's delete this pane here. And we still miss the navigation button and the filter pane. I'm not gonna put the filter pane here, so it's just a mock-up. But it would be the same like in the sales page. A lot of pane. This is how it looks like. If I go to sales, the dashboards, filter pane, ratings. Yeah. I think this is a significant improvement. It looks way better, but it's also cleaner, and I think it's easier to use and understand what's inside of the data. It's nice to look at, it's very aesthetic, and it's fun to use. I put many hours in it, and I also learned a lot of things. I kind of try to narrate it instead of going through step by step. Let me know whether or not you could follow, or if you have any suggestion how I could make it better in the future. If you liked it, you can hit a like or you can subscribe, and see you next time.